The Resident Evil series revolutionized spooky games and created a new genre called survival horror. The original Resident Evil, which came out in 1996, gave the player the ability to kill antagonists, which created the recurring mechanic in the forthcoming games. Resident Evil pioneered the path for fan favorites like The Evil Within, Silent Hill, Fear, and Dead Space, all with drastically different storylines, but similar defense methods to Resident Evil. Personally, I don't like playing these types of games because when you have a weapon to destroy one of the things that makes the game scary in the first place, the whole experience that puts you on the edge of your seat with tension seems less surreal and involving, knowing there is something to save you when things don't go quite as planned. The whole category of survival horror that Resident Evil coined has been in the marketplace for over 2 decades. And this game will always be the original gangster of survival horror, but I don't think it's correct to place it into the same category now that this genre has evolved as new games with new mechanics come out. I'm not saying that games with the style of Resident Evil have suddenly become an entirely different type of horror. There is still a major presence of scavenging and survival in them, but the entire tag of survival horror has been piling up with different style scary games. So much so that the landmark idea of survival horror is becoming the minority. Even though people will call me a rebel and a commie, I think it's best to put the fight back games into a convoluted subgenre that will hopefully be restored soon: adventure horror. A branch off of adventure horror.
Oh my god, he didn't. Did you really just call survival horror games adventure horror after making a long and thorough argument about why you wanted to call them that? Send them a hate speech.
Amnesia: The Dark Descent was developed in 2010 and presented a different take on the already successful adventure horror games like Dead Space and Resident Evil 5.
Oh my god, again? He just said it again.
Oh my god, stop! It's a free country, alright? What was unique about this game was that there weren't any weapons to fight the monsters that, by the way, scared me for years. Your only defense was your lantern, which needed to be filled up with oil frequently. The reason why I call these survival horror games is because you can only survive by running, hiding, or dying. I love playing games like this. It forces you to experience the game in the most captivating and nerve-wracking state, both in and out. In my opinion, games like Outlast, Alien Isolation, and of course Amnesia pushed the envelope on what it was like to be genuinely scared. The groundbreaking mechanics of the games force you into a state you'd think you'd never visit. The immense anxiety of watching the motion tracker in Alien Isolation. The conservationist you become in Outlast as the camera's battery gets lower and lower. And of course, the uneasy, Shining-esque feeling of walking around a corner in Brenningburg Castle. This is why I love horror games, more specifically the newly named survival horror games. It transforms you, and the reward of completing is like winning the lottery, like a $10 prize, not a million. And lucky for you, most of these titles are on sale until July 5th on Steam.
Go in there and spend all your money.
These are the types of games you play if you're a horror person. Most of these games don't really branch off the main horror categories or have rich backstory, but it doesn't mean they're not fun. Friday the 13th, Dead by Daylight, Left 4 Dead, and Dying Light are scary at some moments, but don't substitute for the real deal you get only from a single player experience. Most of the games in this category are co-op or multiplayer and are way better with friends. If they can get off Fortnite. I totally understand that some people aren't just ready to get scared, and many horror games like these are perfect to prepare. Thank you everybody for watching. I'll put a list of my favorite games from each of these categories in the link in the description below. Check them out, and I'll see you soon.